Hello and welcome to another episode of Damn Interesting Week. We are so glad you've decided to join us. My name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And this was a damn interesting week. So let's get started with our first link.
First link. Okay, from The Guardian. You can't hide from the invisible. Specifically, why Bangkok police make arrests in disguise.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So police officers from Bangkok's Metropolitan Bureau had less than 24 hours to prepare for their latest undercover operation. They were going to star as performers of a lion dance at a temple fair for the Lunar New Year. And their mission? Track down and arrest a suspected thief who had a history of evading officers. Now, according to the police captain, the dance was spontaneous. We just did what we did, adding that nobody had time to practice, so one can only imagine how cool this looked. But in his haste, he accidentally picked up his colleague's male mask, which he wore with a red silk dress, trousers, and tactical shoes. But their disguise seemed to work. Children rushed over to join in, the passersby were laughing, and best of all, they were able to take their suspect by surprise, wrestling him to the ground in a tumble of red and gold fabric.
I just want to see the video. Were they still wearing their outfits when they took him down?
Yeah, I mean, the children must have been traumatized.
Or delighted watching a lion, lay down the law of justice, who knows? There is a picture, and they're wearing, traditional performing masks. But they caught the guy, who is now in prison awaiting trial because he's been accused of stealing Buddhist artifacts worth over 47,000 pounds.
Oh, so this isn't like a common thief. This is like a heist specialist.
Yeah, it's a very kind of karmic operation, if you will.
Okay.
So the officers from this team, they're used to donning unusual disguises to surprise suspects. They've dressed up as foliage. They've dressed up as They've dressed up as construction workers, even a lycra-clad wrestler.
Wow.
So their inspiration for the different disguises they use, it comes from fieldwork and also criminal profiling. So in the specific lion dance case, the officers were aware that the suspect had fled to a new area, and in that new area, Lunar New Year festivities were going to see a lot of streets busy with celebrations, which provided a good opportunity for them to blend into crowds. As for the target, he was a professional thief with a long history of robberies. Very aware of his surroundings. If he's suspicious of something, he'll just flee. He's a very good runner as well. So they really needed to get the edge on him. And since the suspect has been caught, he has confessed to some robberies and was carrying a knife at the time of his arrest. So even though the undercover disguises have been largely played for laughs on social media, these are seriously effective. There was another case that drew attention domestically. It was an officer who crawled for several hundred meters through rice fields in a ghillie, which is a camouflage suit, but he was looking to get a guy who had been wanted for sexually assaulting a minor. The suspect in the 2024 case was living in an isolated hut surrounded by fields, and officers feared he would easily spot them approaching if they came in cars or motorbikes. So the Bureau has rejected suggestions that the operations are geared at making social media content, saying they have brought about real arrests.
Yeah, I mean, there's also an element of if you screw up an arrest in costume, it's going to look so much worse for you than if you just did a normal arrest and the guy got away. So I do feel like they're taking a risk and they wouldn't be doing this if it weren't effective.
Yeah, they're raising the stakes here. And the polling has shown that members of the Thai public have mixed attitudes towards the police. So one survey showed high level of confidence, and others said, maybe we're concerned about corruption, which may or may not be disguise related. But they're hoping that the footage of operations that have been shared will show the Thai public they are committed to fighting crime and to remind criminals that the world is getting smaller every day.
Yeah, the corruption is that the police chief owns a costume shop. And so he's it's all kickbacks, man.
That's right. That's a lot of expenses billed to this one company.
Right.
All right, next link.
Next link.
This article comes to us from The Guardian. It's titled, "Where Do We Go? What It's Like Being an Airline Pilot When Missiles Start Crossing Your Flight Path."
Oh,
Ooh.
bad,
Ew.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like,
Not great. So, Keith Tonkin has flown a Boeing 747 towards airspace where missiles were being fired and knows the pressure pilots have been under this week. Airspace was closed on Saturday after the US and Israel launched strikes and Iran retaliated with a barrage of missiles across the Middle East. The mass disruption was a stark difference to the one-off disruptions pilots usually face. Tonkin says that in the early 2000s, India once fired missiles in his flight path as he piloted his regular Boeing 747 from Rome to Singapore. Air traffic controllers warned Tonkin that live missile drills had unexpectedly closed the airspace around the Bay of Bengal, forcing him to recalculate. He says, the first thing is, where are we, and how much fuel have we got, and where do we need to go? These calculations would normally be made with computer readouts and airline operations centers on speed dial, but crises that erupt without warning can leave pilots to rely on their own judgment. Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and neighbors closed all or part of their airspace on Saturday. The vice president of the Australian and International Pilots Association, Steve Cornell, says colleagues told him that some airliners flying with low fuel were forced to land even when their calls to air traffic controllers were not being acknowledged. Their only option was to land, whether they were going to be cleared to do so or not. Calm teamwork between captain and first officer is key, according to Christopher Docherty, who had a bullet puncture his seat while serving as first officer on a flight to Haiti.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, these are passenger flights. Like, this is not a military. Oh, wow.
Yeah, these are commercial flights, yeah. Docherty and Captain Juan Zuluaga was just 500 feet in the air approaching Haiti's Port-au-Prince in 2024 when their plane was shot 6 times, injuring a flight attendant and damaging key systems, including crucial fuel level indicators. The duo rerouted to Santiago, 300 kilometers away, with later analysis finding they had made the right choices. He says, the fact that we had 2 pilots in this cockpit on this day was why this flight was successful. So, once pilots take a new course, they also have to tell air traffic controllers. Dr. Tony Stanton, Consultant Director of Strategic Air, says controllers' jobs became much harder over the past week as they struggle to slot planes into overstuffed air routes while keeping them far enough apart. Air traffic maps show planes squeezed into key paths to get around Iran, one over Turkey to the north and one over Egypt and Oman to the south. Those highways of the sky are now very congested, Stanton says, creating delays worldwide. Stanton says pilots also need to advise the cabin crew and consider telling passengers about military actions near planned flights, if safe to do so. He says, you've got to ask yourself, do people need to know? Will it just scare people when they can't do anything about it anyway?
Yeah, it's nice to get told. I was on a flight to Europe, and we were 3/4 of the way there, and I was looking at the map, and all of a sudden we were facing the wrong direction going back. Yeah, and they didn't tell us for like a good 4 hours.
That's crazy, because basically everybody can see now. Like, you had the flight update. The passengers know.
And we went all the way back to Philadelphia.
Of all the places to have to go back. No, I love Philadelphia is lovely. Don't, like...
Next link.
Next link.
Well, this comes from The Verge. AI-generated art can't be copyrighted after the Supreme Court declines to review the rule.
Well, I mean, that's a decent step forward, I guess.
Yeah. Monday's decision comes after Stephen Thaler, a computer scientist from Missouri, not an artist,
Right.
appealed a court's decision to uphold a ruling that found AI-generated art can't be copyrighted. In 2019, the U.S. Copyright Office rejected Thaler's request to copyright an image called A Recent Entrance to Paradise on behalf of an algorithm he created. They show a picture here. It's crap. Sorry. Art is art. Art is art, so somebody might really enjoy it, but...
Yeah.
The Copyright Office reviewed the decision in 2022 and determined that the image doesn't include, quote, human authorship, disqualifying it from copyright protection. Thaler appealed the decision, so Judge Beryl A. Howell ruled in 2023 that, quote, human authorship is a bedrock requirement of copyright. And Thaler asked the Supreme Court to review the ruling in October 2025, arguing it, quote, created a chilling effect on anyone else using AI creatively. And I say, yeah, good.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you want to make AI art, that's your thing. But you can't then say, oh, but this is mine and no one else can touch it. Like, that's completely antithetical to the entire process you stepped into doing. So, yeah, I feel like everybody should absolutely be taking and mocking and reusing and doing whatever they can to...
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the point I had, too, at the end of this. Like, use that art for something nefarious.
Yeah. Destroy whatever brand they thought they were going to make out of themselves.
Correct. Yeah. And same is true with all the music, too, that is AI created. It is not copyrightable. The U.S. Federal Circuit Court similarly determined that AI systems can't patent inventions because they aren't human, which the U.S. Patent Office reaffirmed in 2024 with new guidance stating that while AI systems can't be listed as inventors on the patent, people can still use AI-powered tools to develop them. That's an interesting
it gets
twist.
fuzzy because it's like, how much did you modify the thing that the AI spit out? And also, what if you just claim you did it, but then later they find evidence that, no, you did use... I mean, it gets fuzzy.
And on the human front, like human authorship is a bedrock requirement for copyright. Are corporations now considered humans?
Right.
I mean, haven't they been for a while?
Yeah, I think so. Not to give any ammunition to clever authorities out there. And the UK Supreme Court made a similar decision. Whether other courts will, TBD on that.
Right. I mean, listen, whether we even have a court system in the future, it's, like...
And on that note, next link.
Next link.
All right, this next one comes from a YouTube channel called Design Theory, and it's about the deadliest design mistakes in history. And some of these are a little more subtle than others. Like, they tease us right up front about a deadly PowerPoint slide, which we will get to. But the first product they talk about is a little more of a no-brainer, and it is, of course, lawn darts.
Oh, I thought it was going to be asbestos.
So for our younger listeners who may have never heard of these things, lawn darts were pretty much exactly what you're envisioning. They were giant darts with a pointy metal tip that you were meant to throw across the yard, presumably onto a target, but of course children threw them at each other. And there's at least one horrifying X-ray shown in the video if you want to take a look at it. But the one interesting thing that I didn't know about lawn darts was that they were quite literally modeled after an ancient Roman weapon called a plumbata war dart. They were fully designed from the outset to be a deadly ranged projectile. And yet, it still took about 6,000 hospital visits and a handful of deaths before the product was pulled off the market.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, that is in direct contrast to the second product that they want to dive into here, which remains on store shelves to this day. It's called Fabuloso, and it comes in a variety of fruity flavors. It's got big, beautiful pictures of fruit on the label. The bottles are small with an easy grip shape, just like you would expect from a sports drink, only it's not a sports drink. It's a concentrated floor cleaner.
Oh, no.
And you might think to yourself, well, surely the bottle can't look that much like juice. But honestly, give it a Google, because the entire design of this label looks as if someone were deliberately trying to trick children into drinking floor cleaner. And unfortunately, they definitely have. After more than 100 calls to poison control, Fabuloso agreed to change their label, which is to say they added a tiny little mop and bucket next to the still humongous pictures of fruit. And it's actually become so famous for looking stupidly like a juice bottle that there's now a trend online where people replace the Fabuloso liquid with real juice and guzzle it on camera to prank their families. And there's even a company in Mexico that has released an actual sports drink that parodies the Fabuloso label. So none of this is helping. And, again, you might think you're better than this, but a ton of the poison control calls were from adults who knew better, but they came home drunk or they got up thirsty in the middle of the night. And if it happens, you probably won't even know right away because it doesn't even taste bad, according to at least one doctor who took a sip for the sake of science. Don't drink the floor cleaner, guys. Anyway, next up, we have another classic from the past, the Ford Pinto.
Oh, yeah.
And this was another one, like lawn darts, where I knew the car had a reputation, but I didn't really know just how bad it was. So the main problem with the Ford Pinto was that in order to save space, they put the gas tank all the way at the back, protected by nothing but a flimsy bumper. And there were engineers on staff who tried to warn them that this design wasn't safe. But the CEO at the time, Lee Iacocca, was famous for saying, quote, "Safety doesn't sell." And he's not the first CEO to think that way, nor will he be the last. But in this case, the danger was particularly egregious because getting rear-ended in a Ford Pinto at just 30 miles an hour was enough to puncture the Pinto's gas tank and spray fuel everywhere. And getting rear-ended at just 40 miles an hour was enough to jam the two doors completely shut. So you not only had exploding cars, you had exploding cars that people couldn't get out of. And this one pretty famously involved some legal action because early in the process, one of the safety engineers got fired because he wouldn't shut up. And he ultimately became a whistleblower who testified in court that, yes, Ford's executives most definitely knew about the danger and even had documents estimating the amount of money they'd have to pay out in death settlements compared to the amount of money it would cost to change the design.
I'm reminded of a great scene in Top Secret where the car barely hits it on the back end. It goes tink, and the whole car explodes.
I mean, that was basically their reputation for sure. And while the settlement that they ultimately paid to the families was relatively small, this one did have a bit of a silver lining in that the massive publicity surrounding the court case made it so that safety very much did become a selling point for cars. And a lot of the safety features that we have today, like airbags and crumple zones, those are a direct result of the consumer outrage over the Ford Pinto. And they've got a few more car examples here, including a Volvo whose gas and brake pedals were too close together and not really distinguishable by feel, which they then tie into a new trend of putting digital touchscreens in vehicles, even though everyone agrees that's a terrible idea.
Terrible.
Yeah, but I promised you a deadly PowerPoint slide, so we're going to skip ahead to that one. So the PowerPoint story comes from the Columbia shuttle disaster in 2003. During takeoff, a piece of insulating foam broke loose and struck an orbital wing, and the damage was significant enough that the wing was no longer protected from heat during re-entry, which ultimately caused the death of everyone on board. And so in one sense, you can pretty clearly say, well, yeah, the foam was defective, and that was the reason for the failure. But a Yale professor named Edward Tufte has argued that the real problem happened after the Columbia had successfully reached a stable orbit. Because engineers did know that a chunk of foam had struck the wing during takeoff, and they fully understood that this could cause major issues during re-entry. But when they presented this information to their bosses, it was part of an overall rundown of the entire takeoff, and the particular slide discussing the foam problem was packed with redundant text and not given any more weight than any other part of the presentation. It was engineer speak, basically. It was someone with no communication skills.
Angie, that's your least favorite.
Yeah. And you can see the slide for yourself if you want to decide whether you would walk away with the correct amount of alarm after seeing it. But, it's things like the title of the slide was Review of Test Data Indicates Conservatism for Tile Penetration, instead of, we almost certainly penetrated a tile and should definitely repair it before attempting reentry.
Jargon kills, everyone. It kills.
And, there's a line buried deep at the bottom that says volume of ramp is 1920 Q in versus 3 Q in for test, instead of y'all. This impact was 600 times worse than anything we ever tested for. Goof. And so there was this complete miscommunication where mission control thought re-entry was going to be safe, and the engineers were like, we definitely told you that it wasn't. And the example is so well known in the industry that aerospace engineers in college are sometimes given the assignment to take this slide and fix it in a way that the message would have gotten across.
Nice.
Anyway, these are just some of my favorites. There's several more examples in the link if you want to revel in the foolishness. But of course, the guy who made this video is an industrial designer by profession. So his takeaway is very much that you should A, hire industrial designers, and B, listen to them when they tell you what you paid them to tell you.
It really is a two-step recommendation.
Yeah. And, he doesn't say it directly, but don't let engineers give presentations. Make somebody with speaking skills and communication skills do it. Next link.
Next link. All right, from the Smithsonian Magazine. Caribou are the only deer species in which females grow antlers. And science is starting to get closer to why.
I mean, decoration, they look fantastic. Why wouldn't you?
Antlers are so hot right now.
That's right.
So caribou is just another name for reindeer, but female reindeer / caribou have antlers, which is unique in that family. And it's a question that has long perplexed scientists. But now researchers have discovered one possible explanation. Antlers may serve as an important nutritional supplement for females that have recently given birth.
Whoa.
Many North American caribou walk thousands of miles every year between their winter grazing grounds and their spring calving grounds. Pregnant females will make this journey too, even though the migration is just really demanding on their energy. But it seems that these reindeer mothers-to-be have evolved a clever workaround. They stockpile vital nutrients in their antlers, which they shed just a few days before giving birth. Then once the calves are born, they seem to use the antlers as a quick, easy snack, kind of like antler jerky.
I mean, it's nice that they shed them first. Like, they're not
Yes.
chewing on each other's heads.
Right. Although that might be some pro-social behavior that could evolve. Who knows? For the study, the researchers focused on a region of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in northeast Alaska. And this is where they shed their antlers and gave birth to calves. So between 2010 and 2018, researchers visited the grounds and collected 1,567, quite precise, shed caribou antlers and 224 caribou, moose, and musk ox skeletal bones.
Yeah, but they stole their snacks. Like, they went and picked them up.
I'd like to think that they did this after the calving process.
Okay.
And so, like, because they wanted to see, like, where are the bite marks, basically.
Right, what's left over.
Yeah, so they brought the remains back to a laboratory where they scoured them for the tooth marks, and more than 86% of the antlers showed signs of gnawing. But, the Arctic is full of hungry animals. You've got carnivorous bears and wolves and opportunistic lemmings. So after taking a closer look at the bite patterns, they deduced that about 99% of the tooth marks on the antlers were made by caribou. Study co-author Joshua Miller, an ecologist at the University of Cincinnati, said, "My jaw dropped when our results started to become clear. We knew that animals gnawed on these antlers, but everyone assumed they were mostly rodents. Now we know it's really caribou." And when they turned their attention towards the skeletal bones, they found even more bite marks, but these were primarily made by carnivores. Only 12% came from caribou. So, little look at antlers here. They are fast-growing bones made of a mix of hard and soft tissues. They contain roughly the same concentration of calcium as skeletal bones, but the nutrient is more bioavailable, which means it's easier to absorb and use in antlers. Antlers are also less likely to be targeted by carnivores because they tend to prefer the skeletal bones. They're richer in fats and soft tissues. And there are a few other theories for why female caribou grow antlers. They might use them to defend themselves against predators or establish their grazing territories. Maybe they have antlers so they can look like young males, which could help protect sons from being picked on by more aggressive adult males during breeding season. But the researchers behind this new study aren't convinced by these ideas, especially antlers as a defensive tool. Lead author Madison Gaetano says female caribou shed their antlers right around when they give birth, which means they're antlerless when it would be most crucial to have antlers and defend a young calf if it were a defense mechanism. And not only that, female antlers are relatively small, especially compared to male antlers, which can be up to 4 feet long and weigh up to 20 pounds each. So they really wouldn't be very effective at warding off predators. And anecdotally, female caribou usually use their hooves to trample and kick.
It's like how wives always poison their husbands. They don't, attack them. You go with the subtle kill, is what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh, what a corollary. It's also possible that multiple theories could be true at once, right? Maybe there are some they have yet to discover. But the shed antlers also play another role in the Arctic as the environment is concerned, because once they eventually break down, which is a process that takes hundreds of years, they infuse the landscape with minerals that help support the growth of flora, like sedges, grasses, and lichens. So in this way, pregnant females are kind of engineering this habitat by seeding the landscape with these super important minerals that can be quite hard for animals to get enough of.
Or it could be just also like a genetic afterthought, like nipples on men.
Right, like they were always hanging out there. Like maybe other deer have the ability to grow antlers, and it's just there's no pressure for it. But at any point, give it a couple generations and they could suddenly start sprouting them.
Yeah, destroy their habitat, make them travel more to give birth. See what happens. They dare us.
Wait, are you saying that eventually maybe I could have milk?
Yeah.
Honestly, they can actually trigger that in men. That's a whole separate article. But yes.
Ooh.
Anyway.
All right. Next link. Next link.
This article comes to us from sciencealert.com. It's titled, "Tinnitus is somehow connected to a crucial bodily function."
Oh.
Huh.
So real quick, because I've been teaching this for a while and I've called it tinnitus my entire life. And then I went to an audiologist.
Oh, it's tinnitus, is it?
Tinnitus.
No.
Yeah, and that drives me crazy as well.
It just doesn't sound bad enough.
I know. I feel the same way. And I still say tinnitus and tinnitus.
Yeah.
I do it kind of both.
Diseases are supposed to end in itis. That makes them sound threatening.
Yes,
what is that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
agreed.
Fine.
So anyway.
For this article, it'll be tinnitus, but in our hearts, it's tinnitus.
Right, exactly.
And in our ears.
Right.
So, those who have never endured the relentless ringing of tinnitus can only dream of the torment. In fact, a bad dream may be the closest some get to experiencing anything like it. Neuroscientists at the University of Oxford now suspect that sleep and tinnitus are closely intertwined in the brain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this article is upsetting. Their findings hint at a fundamental relationship between two conditions, one that has surprisingly been overlooked in the brain until very recently. Neuroscientist Linus Malinsky at Oxford's Sleep and Circadian Neuroscience Institute said tinnitus is a debilitating medical condition, whereas sleep is a natural state we enter regularly, yet both appear to rely on spontaneous brain activity. And while many individuals with tinnitus report poor sleep and show poor sleep patterns, the potential connection to this bodily function has only recently come to light. In 2022, Malinsky led a review which the authors claim is the first to consider at a functional level how sleep might impact tinnitus and vice versa. The researchers proposed that the large spontaneous waves of brain activity that occur during deep sleep or non-rapid eye movement sleep might suppress the brain activity that leads to tinnitus. To test that idea, the team turned to ferrets, which have a similar auditory system to humans. In experiments published in 2024, researchers found that ferrets that developed more severe tinnitus also showed disrupted sleep. Malinsky says, crucially, the ferrets that developed tinnitus showed overly responsive brain activity to sound. When the ferrets finally did manage to slip into non-REM sleep, that hyperactivity was dampened, which suggests that sleep may temporarily mask the effects by engaging the same brain circuits. Research on non-human animals has its obvious limitations, but the same sort of brain activity patterns may exist in humans too. Since their 2022 review, Malinsky says the field has rapidly expanded with a growing number of large-scale studies investigating how sleep, the environment, and tinnitus interact, and not just in ferrets. Just last year, a study from China found that individuals with tinnitus were less able to suppress the hyperactivity of their awake brains as they transitioned into a sleep state. The authors conclude, this study establishes sleep as a critical therapeutic target to interrupt the 24-hour dysfunctional cycle of tinnitus. Malinsky speculated tinnitus can make sleep worse, and poor sleep may in turn make tinnitus worse. It may be a kind of vicious cycle, although I do not believe it is unbreakable. When we do not sleep well, we become more vulnerable to stress, and stress is one of the strongest factors known to worsen tinnitus. Stress can even trigger tinnitus to begin with. So, further research could lead not only to effective tinnitus treatments, but also to help scientists just better understand the mysteries of sleep itself.
Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like you didn't sleep well enough, so your brain's still going to do that sleepy time activity even when you're awake.
Yeah.
Like, it's taking that same part of the brain and going, nope, we're active anyway.
Yeah, and, I can speak just anecdotally that, I've had tinnitus basically my entire adult life. I think it started in my teen years, probably from listening to music too loudly in earbuds that go deep into your ear canal. And, yeah, at night, I have such problems with, hyperactive brain stuff. And, I mean, that's just me in general, but, maybe there's a link there where, if I slept, I could sleep more. I don't know. It sucks.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, my dad has it really bad, but he had ear damage. He's been a pilot, so we always assumed it was that. But he also has fibromyalgia and hasn't slept in years. So, kind of making a, somebody's getting this article sent to them today.
Yeah, and some tranquilizers, because...
And there's medication that can cause it, too. What? So I bet that dysregulates sleep in some pattern that causes that feedback loop in the brain.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, any avenues they can open, it sounds like it would be helpful to figure anything out, even if it turns out a bunch of people have different causes for their particular tinnitus. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're working on regrowing teeth. Let's get that tinnitus in line, too. Yeah. Next link?
Next link.
Okay, this comes from Nautilus. Laughing off your mistakes makes you seem more competent.
Yes. I have personal experience with this as a child, but anyway, go ahead.
So how you react when somebody, calls you the wrong name or you trip over a curb. If you put yourself into a pit of embarrassment, you're not alone. But research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology suggests you'd be better off laughing at your mistakes. The team employed a variety of experimental designs, tasking more than 3,000 participants with reading stories about people who committed minor blunders, like walking into a glass door at a party. They were then told the individual either laughed or became embarrassed, and in some cases were even shown photos of people displaying amusement or humiliation. They found that people who laughed off their mistakes were perceived as warmer, more competent, and more authentic. So what's interesting is that embarrassment was often perceived as excess. Observers tended to think that actors who displayed embarrassments were feeling way more embarrassed than the situation actually warranted. If the fictional faux pas resulted in real harm, either to themselves or someone else, people tended to regard laughter as an inappropriate response.
Right.
Or one of my friends, anytime he would hurt himself, like legitimately hurt himself, he would start just cackling laughing. But his laughing became like maniacal in a way that was like, no, that's not appropriate, man.
Now
that
we're scared of you.
Now we're kind of feeling weird about you. Yeah. And they also noted they didn't study repeated effects of laughing versus cringing. So it's unclear whether the impact they have on our reputations in the long run. So I guess if you keep making the blunder and you keep laughing, we're eventually going to be like, all right, man, it's not funny anymore.
That's interesting because so when I was pretty young, I kind of figured out the only difference between someone laughing at you and laughing with you was whether you were laughing. And there was definitely like a defiance to it as well, because I was like, well, I laughed first. So now like your laugh doesn't hurt me. You know, I didn't really find it funny, but I was also like, you can't stop me. But because I started doing that at a very young age, I wonder if that has fed into the fact that now when I hear bad news, I will sometimes smile in a panic. And it's not good if someone's like, hey, this person you know died. And I'm like, hey, and
There may be something to being like a woman in the West and using humor and politeness to diffuse threatening situations because we encounter them all the time.
Right. It's kind of that diffusing instinct is I'm like, uh-oh, this is bad. I need to make everybody else not come at me.
Play nice, not go dead.
Yeah. And the faux pas resulted in real harm, Yeah, football in the groin is still pretty funny. So it's an old Simpsons reference.
Yep.
But I guess they're not actually getting hurt, right? Like if it was football in the groin and then we found out he had to have them removed, it wouldn't be as funny anymore, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's a question of the level of damage. I mean, it is still funny to see somebody fall down the stairs as long as they don't break their neck.
That's right. The trauma that'll last with them forever, at least psychologically, it's fine. Just shake it off.
Right. Laugh it off, y'all.
Next link.
Next link.
All right. Well, I've got a fun, quick one here that's either going to make Bradley very happy or very angry, and I'm not sure which. It's from tomshardware.com, and it's about an informal experiment that recently took place on an audiophile message board. So one of the things that audio people love to argue about is the quality of audio cables.
Oh, my God.
But these arguments are always couched in terms of cheap cables versus fancy cables.
It's snake oil.
And a moderator in the DIY audio forum was like, actually, let's make this simple. So he ran a sound signal through some less common but still technically conductive interfaces, including a banana and some wet mud. Then he took those recordings and posted them side by side with a recording made through a normal copper wire, as well as the original sound file ripped directly from the CD, and asked users to identify which was which. And the end result was they could not tell. Users Joe Jackson, Nirvana, Ravel, R. Pigeon, and Felix LeBand got none of the 4 options right. Etta Jones, America, and Piano each got 1, and the most successful user among them, Perry Como, only got 2. And I didn't need to read all those names out to you, but I thought they were funny, so I did. And while Perry Como might be tempted to pat himself on the back a little bit, the fact is that taken in the aggregate, the number of correct guesses is the same as you would expect to see by random chance.
Yep.
That being said, it is worth noting that there was one immediate difference in the 4 recordings, which the moderator corrected for before posting them, and that was the relative volume of the files. Basically, the signal was just fundamentally weaker in poor conductors like banana and mud, but the critical thing they were looking for was distortion. And if there was any, it was negligible to the human ear. All you had to do was turn it up, and the sound was still there in all its glory. And, that's not to say that this is definitive. We generally frown on scientific studies with only 9 participants, and it is possible that there are some golden ears out there who could consistently hear the difference where others couldn't.
No.
I know. I agree. I totally agree. But I I do think it's fair to say that for most people, even self-selected, self-described audiophiles, you shouldn't be spending money on those monster cables. It's a scam.
Yep.
We could all be using bananas right now. You don't know.
Yeah, sample rate and bit depth too, y'all. Do not pay more for 24-bit 192. It does not sound better than 44 116-bit. It is scientific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Write those numbers down and put them on a slide that conveys that information really clearly, because otherwise... All right. Well, that is all we have time for today. We're so glad you've joined us. Some of the articles we did not have time to get to today include: why do office chairs have 5 legs? The urge to snack is built into our brains, and these bacteria beat cancer by eating cancer. So all that and more, plus everything we talked about today, can be found on damninteresting.com. If you like our podcast and want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/damninterestingweek. In the meantime, my name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And we hope you have a damn interesting week. Bye-bye.